My husband humiliated me in front of 50 people while I was carrying his child. That was the moment my world shifted. Not because of the laughter around me, or the way he pretended my pregnancy was some exaggerated mood swing, but because I realized he was enjoying the attention it gave him. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry. I just stood there, holding my belly, wondering how a man who once kissed my hands now joked about whether our baby was too early to claim as his. The room kept spinning from the lights, from the shame, from the cramps I kept pretending weren't getting worse. And as I looked around, trying so hard to steady my breath, one question haunted me. When did love turn into this? When did I become the easiest person to hurt? I thought the night couldn't get worse. I thought the humiliation was the peak of it. But I was wrong. Because just when I felt myself breaking, just when I felt truly, utterly alone, the front door opened, and the one man I never expected to show up walked in, holding a folder that would destroy every lie I'd been living under. My father. My quiet, distant father. And the truth he brought with him changed everything. Hi, I'm Lena. And this is my story. I should have stayed home. Even as Evan helped me into the car that evening, a dull ache sat low in my stomach, the kind of ache my doctor told me to rest through. But Evan hated when I canceled plans, especially plans his mother organized. So I smiled, placed a hand over my belly, and told myself I could handle a few hours. Margaret's house looked like something out of a magazine: warm lights, soft music, people dressed like they belonged in expensive advertisements. The moment we stepped inside, her eyes scanned me from head to toe, the way someone checks a shelf item for damage. "You made it," she said flatly. "I was worried pregnancy might slow you down." Evan laughed, as if she'd told a joke. "Lena's fine, Mom. She just likes to act fragile." My cheeks warmed. I wasn't acting anything. I was just tired. Pregnant. Human. We moved through the crowd, and the noise grew sharper. Someone asked Evan how I was doing. "She cries over everything now," he said. "Even commercials. God help me when the baby comes." People laughed, kind but shallow. Every sound felt like it chipped another piece off me. A wave of nausea rose, and I steadied myself against a chair. Evan didn't notice. I slipped away toward the hallway, hoping no one saw my shaking hands. Then I heard my name spoken in a hushed, cutting tone. And in that moment, I realized humiliation wasn't the worst thing waiting for me that night. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I had only stepped into the quieter hallway to breathe, but the moment I heard Margaret's voice, low and cold, I froze. "She's slowing him down," she whispered to someone. "Evan deserves someone stronger, not a girl who falls apart the moment she's pregnant." My throat tightened. She said girl, not wife. And the way she said it, like I was some short-term mistake, sliced something inside me. The other woman murmured, "And the baby?" Margaret's sigh was sharp. "He'll manage. But the papers are ready if he decides to end it now." Papers. My heart hammered. Divorce papers? Custody papers? Something else? A sudden cramp bent me slightly forward, but I held onto the wall, silent. My breath came shallow, controlled. I couldn't let them know I was there. "I told him," Margaret continued, "he shouldn't be tied down right now. Not with his career about to take off." My nausea swirled into something darker: fear. Were they planning something behind my back? Had Evan already agreed? Footsteps approached. I straightened, wiped my face, and pretended to be scanning a painting on the wall. When they passed me, they didn't even flinch. They didn't know I'd heard every venomous word. But as I walked toward the bathroom, holding my belly, I felt the truth settle heavy. I wasn't part of their family. I was an obstacle. And yet, the next person who spoke to me revealed something even worse, something Evan himself had been telling people about me. I splashed cold water on my face, trying to steady the trembling in my hands. My reflection looked pale, almost hollow: pregnancy exhaustion, mixed with something I didn't want to name yet: heartbreak. A soft knock sounded. When I opened the door, an older woman with kind eyes stood there. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked gently. I nodded, forcing a smile. But she didn't seem convinced. "I only ask because your husband, well, he's been making little comments about you tonight." My stomach dropped. She continued quietly. He told a few gentlemen you've been unstable lately. Overly emotional. Hard to handle. The words hit me harder than the cramps twisting my abdomen. Unstable? Hard to handle? She hesitated. He shouldn't joke like that. Especially with a baby coming. I felt a hot tear slip down my cheek before I could stop it. Not because of the gossip, but because the man I loved was the source of it. I'm sorry, she added softly. I just thought you should know. I thanked her, though my voice barely worked. She squeezed my hand before walking away. I braced myself against the wall, nausea rising not from pregnancy this time, but from betrayal. What else had he told people? What image of me had he crafted? I stepped out of the bathroom, desperate to escape the walls closing in on me. And that's when Evan appeared, grabbing my arm with a tight smile. There you are, he said. People are starting to think you're avoiding everyone. His grip, his tone, everything felt off. But nothing prepared me for how he would humiliate me next, and in front of everyone. Evan guided me, or rather, dragged me back into the center of the room. My arm tingled where he'd held too tightly, but he pretended nothing was wrong. See, he announced loudly, she wasn't hiding. Just running away from adult conversation again. A small wave of awkward laughter followed. A few people exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one said anything. I felt the heat rise in my face, shame turning my skin blotchy. A sharp cramp tore through my lower abdomen, and I pressed a hand there instinctively. Are you okay? Someone asked gently. She's fine, Evan cut in. She plays up the pregnancy thing. Trust me. The humiliation burned deeper than the pain. Then someone joked, casually, cruelly. So, Evan, is the baby really yours? You two got married pretty fast. And Evan, he laughed. Not nervously. Not defensively. He laughed like it was genuinely funny. I guess we'll find out, he joked. A louder burst of laughter shook the room. I stood there, feeling the world tilt. My vision blurred, the lights too bright, the voices too sharp. Was this really my life? Was I really just entertainment to him? I tried to steady myself, but my knees felt weak. I need some air, I whispered. But Evan shrugged. Yeah, she does that. Drama queen. I forced myself outside, gripping the railing as the cold air hit my burning cheeks. My heart felt bruised, and the cramps were getting stronger. Then came the moment that changed everything, the moment I learned this humiliation wasn't even the worst of their plans. I slipped back inside through a side door and found the nearest empty room, a guest bedroom tucked away from the noise. The air smelled faintly of lavender, a small comfort in the middle of my spiraling thoughts. I sat on the edge of the bed, one hand pressing against the tightening ache in my stomach. I'm sorry, I whispered to my baby. Just hang in there with me, please. Silent tears dripped onto my hands. I didn't sob, didn't make a sound. I'd learned to cry quietly during my marriage. As I reached for tissues in the bedside drawer, something caught my eye, a folder. Thick. Organized. Marked with Evan's handwriting. Curiosity and dread twisted together. I opened it. Bank documents. Statements. Joint accounts. Except, my name wasn't on any of them. Not anymore. My breath hitched. My chest tightened. Had he removed me? When? Why? A cold fear settled deep in my bones. Footsteps approached. I wiped my tears, shut the folder, and set it back exactly as I found it. The door handle turned, and Margaret stepped in. Her eyes widened, not with concern, but with annoyance. As if my presence in the wrong room was yet another inconvenience. But it was what she said next, casually, cruelly, that finally revealed the first layer of their plan. Margaret closed the door behind her as if ensuring no one else would stumble in. What are you doing here? She asked, not even pretending to soften her tone. I just needed a moment, I said quietly. Her gaze flicked to my stomach. Pregnancy isn't an excuse to wander through private rooms. I swallowed the sting of her words. Why isn't my name on the accounts anymore? Her expression didn't even shift. She just sighed. Because it's better for Evan to keep things separate. Financially cleaner. Cleaner for what? My voice trembled. She smiled slow, cold. For when the time comes to make bigger decisions. What decisions? I pressed, my heart pounding. She brushed imaginary dust off her sleeve. Lena, darling, you're young. Emotional. Unprepared. Evan has a future to protect. And the baby? I whispered. For the first time, her eyes softened, but not with kindness. With calculation. Let's just say things will be smoother once the baby situation is resolved. Resolved. The word tasted bitter. My breath caught. What do you mean by resolved? She didn't answer. She only smirked, as if I'd asked a childish question she didn't feel obligated to respond to. I stepped back, clutching my belly instinctively. So that's it? I whispered. You want him to leave me? If he chooses to, she said simply. Footsteps echoed somewhere down the hall, louder, urgent. And before I could process her meaning, my phone rang, delivering news that shattered any remaining trust one had in Evan. My phone buzzed violently in my hand, making me jump. Claire, our neighbor. I stepped out onto the back patio, where the air was cooler, the noise distant. Lena. Claire's voice was shaky. I wasn't sure if I should call, but something felt wrong tonight. My grip tightened. What happened? It's Evan. She hesitated. I've seen him meeting a woman. More than once. In his car. At odd hours. My breath left my lungs. How long? I managed to whisper. 2 months, maybe more, she said. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but he always looked around nervously, and tonight when I saw your car leaving earlier, something told me to warn you. The world spun again, but this time from betrayal, not shame. He said it was work, I whispered, voice breaking. Lena, Claire said softly, are you safe right now? I looked around the patio, golden lights, clinking glasses, people laughing inside. Safe? Not even close. A sudden tightening in my abdomen made me gasp, gripping the railing. Are you okay? Claire asked urgently. I don't know. Then the patio door slid open. Evan. His expression annoyed, not concerned. There you are, he said sharply. Can you stop disappearing? Claire's voice on the line whispered, be careful. I ended the call before Evan could hear. But he stepped closer, eyes narrowed. You're making me look bad, he muttered. And that's when he delivered the cruelest blow of the night, one that broke something irreversibly inside me. Evan stepped beside me, plastering on a smile just in case anyone nearby was watching. What are you doing out here? He said through clenched teeth. People think you're upset again. I am upset, I whispered. I'm in pain. You're always in pain lately, he scoffed. It's getting old, Lena. The words hit harder than the cramps. Before I could respond, a couple stepped onto the patio. Evan raised his voice instantly. She does this, he said to them casually. Runs off, imaginary pains, dramatic episodes. Pregnancy made her impossible. The couple looked uncomfortable, glancing at me sympathetically. But Evan wasn't done. And honestly, he added, laughing lightly, this isn't even the worst of it. The hormones make her say things that aren't true. So don't believe everything you hear from her. I stared at him, at the stranger he'd become. Another stab of pain radiated through my abdomen. I held the railing, breathing shakily. Evan, I whispered, I need to go home. Oh, don't start, he muttered. Just get through tonight. Everything will be easier soon. Easier. The same word Margaret used. Before I could ask what he meant, the front door opened behind us. A familiar voice cut through the music and chatter. Lena. My blood froze. My father stood in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes searching for me. He hadn't been invited. He should not have been there. And the folder he carried, that was the moment everything began to unravel. My father's presence alone felt like the world had tilted sideways. He rarely left his house unless necessary. He never attended parties. He never involved himself in my marriage. Yet here he was, breathless, worried, holding a thick folder in his hand. Dad? I whispered, confused. He didn't look at Evan. He didn't greet Margaret. He walked straight to me, eyes sweeping over my pale face, the hand clutching my belly, the sweat gathering at my temples. What's happening to you? He asked, voice breaking in a way I hadn't heard since childhood. I don't know, I whispered. Evan tried stepping between us. Sir, this is private. You shouldn't just show up. My father ignored him. "Lena," he said, louder now. "The doctor called me." The chatter nearby faded. People turned. My heart thudded painfully. "The doctor called you?" He nodded, jaw tight. "They said you missed your appointment today. They said they tried calling your husband multiple times. No response." I felt dizzy. Evan stiffened. My father opened the folder slowly, pages of medical notes, emails, printed call logs. "I rushed here the moment I read their warning," he continued. "They said your pregnancy is high risk. That stress could harm you. That you need rest." His voice shook. "That you might be in danger." Margaret paled. Evan swallowed hard. My world cracked wide open. But it was only when my father read the final line from the doctor that the truth hit me like a blow to the chest. My father's hand trembled as he flipped to the final page, an email from my OB/GYN, stamped with urgent priority. He read aloud, voice straining. "We have attempted to reach the husband regarding the patient's high-risk indicators. If she is not informed or brought in immediately, complications may escalate." I stared at the page, numb. Informed? I was supposed to be informed. "What is this?" I whispered to Evan. "Why didn't you tell me?" He ran a hand through his hair. "Lena, it wasn't that serious." My father snapped. "Not that serious?" "The doctor called me crying, saying she was terrified something might happen to my daughter." People around us froze. Evan's jaw clenched. "I didn't want her stressing out more. She's already emotional." "Emotional?" my father repeated in disbelief. "She's in physical pain." Another wave of cramps pulsed through me, and I grabbed my father's arm for support. Margaret tried to step in. "Lena is young. Sometimes doctors exaggerate." "No," my father cut her off, glaring. "What's exaggerated is the lies in this house." The room fell silent. And then he said the line that ripped the air open. The doctor couldn't reach Lena because every message, every email, every warning was sent to Evan, who never passed them on. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Evan whispered, "Lena, let me explain." I held up a shaking hand. "No," I said. "Not anymore." And in that quiet, trembling moment, I realized what I had to do next, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd built with him. The noise around me blurred, voices, gasps, whispers, all fading into a low hum I could no longer make sense of. All I saw was Evan, a man I didn't recognize anymore. My father placed a steady hand on my back. "Lena," he said gently, "you don't have to stay here." For the first time that night, I felt a breath of relief. A path. A choice. I straightened, though my legs trembled beneath me. "I'm leaving," I said softly. Evan reached for my arm. "Lena, please. You're overreacting." I stepped back. "You hid medical warnings from me. You humiliated me. And you laughed when someone questioned our baby. It was just a joke." "No," I whispered. "It was cruelty." He opened his mouth again, but I turned away. My father wrapped my coat around my shoulders with quiet care. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just protective. As we walked toward the door, I heard Margaret hiss under her breath. We almost had it handled. My father heard it too, and his jaw locked. But neither of us stopped walking. Outside in the cold air, I finally inhaled fully, as if my lungs had been half working for months. I rested a hand over my belly. "We're leaving now," I whispered to my child. "I choose you." But leaving the party was only the beginning. The real battle would be the truth hidden inside the documents waiting back home. Back at my father's house, a place I hadn't stayed overnight in years, I sank into the living room sofa, finally letting myself breathe without feeling watched. My father spread the documents on the table. Bank statements, emails, medical warnings. All pieces of a truth I hadn't wanted to see. "Lena," he said quietly, "I think they were preparing something." "I know," I whispered. We reviewed everything in silence. The emails from my doctor showed repeated attempts to reach Evan. The bank statements revealed account changes, removals, transfers, decisions made without me. And then, the message threads. My hands shook as I read them. Margaret pressuring Evan to separate before the baby arrived. Telling him that once I delivered, I'd have legal leverage. Encouraging him to act now while he still had the chance. My eyes blurred with tears. "This wasn't an accident," I whispered. "They wanted to isolate me." My father nodded slowly, pain flickering across his face. I felt something inside me shift, not anger, but clarity. My phone buzzed. A message from Evan. "Please talk." I didn't mean for it to go that far. The words felt hollow. Because that far meant risking my pregnancy. And as more messages poured in, I realized Evan wasn't done. Now he was afraid of losing something he never cherished. The days that followed felt strangely gentle, like my body was finally able to rest after months of carrying weight I didn't realize was there. My father made me herbal tea every morning, quietly checking if I was eating enough. He didn't ask for details. He didn't comment on the past. He simply stayed. For a man who had always been distant, it felt like a small miracle. My doctor called. "Your stress levels are improving," she said warmly. "The baby is doing better." I cried after that call, a soft, relieved cry I didn't try to hide. Evan kept texting. "You're being dramatic. We can fix this. Don't throw our marriage away." My mother didn't mean what she said. "Come home." I responded to none of them. Every day at my father's home felt more like safety, and the house I once shared with Evan felt more like a trap. One evening, my father sat beside me on the porch. "You know," he said quietly, "your mother once stayed longer than she should have, because she wanted to believe people could change." I looked at him, startled. He met my gaze. But sometimes leaving is the bravest version of love, especially when a child is involved. His words landed softly but powerfully. I placed a hand over my stomach. "My baby deserves better," I whispered. He nodded. "So do you." And then Evan sent one final message, the one that told me exactly what I needed to do next. The final message arrived late at night. "Don't leave me. I'll do anything. Please." For a moment, I stared at the screen. Not with longing. Not with anger. Just clarity. Sometimes the absence of love becomes louder than the presence of pain. I opened my laptop. I drafted separation papers, simple, direct, with focus only on parental responsibilities and my own well-being. No revenge. No dramatic demands. Just boundaries. Evan called repeatedly. I let every call ring out. My father sat quietly nearby, not asking what I was doing, trusting that I knew. When morning light filled the room, I felt a strange calm settle over me. I placed a hand over my belly. "We're okay now," I whispered. "We're finally safe." In the days that followed, I attended my checkups, ate well, slept deeply. My baby's heartbeat grew stronger, steady, brave, alive. And I realized something profound. I didn't win by fighting. I didn't win by shouting. I didn't win by proving anything. I won by walking away before they could break me any further. A quiet victory. A peaceful ending. A new beginning that belonged only to me and my child. And as I sat by the window one morning, sunlight warming my skin, I whispered a final truth. Sometimes the truth arrives quietly, carried by the one person who never stopped loving you. And that is the story of how my father saved not just my life, but the life of the child who will never know how close we came to being hurt beyond repair.